Oh, how I love these games. Let me count the ways. Welcome everyone to another episode of my 100 Favorite Games. I'm Ray, and this will be episode for number 70 through 61 in the countdown. So without much further ado, here's number 70. It's a game from the famed design team of Kramer and Kiesling called Tikal. It's a older game set created in 2000. What you do is you're setting an archaeological team out into the jungle to set up base camps and then excavate ruins based on the ancient civilization. It's collection. It's also an action point allowance game where you're setting up these tile paths and these steps determine the number of action points you're going to have to spend to send your researchers into the jungle further. However, you can set up only one or two base camps during the course of the game, so in order to explore some of these unreached places, you're going to have to decide whether or not it's worth spending extra action points to go deeper into the jungle or spend the points to set up a camp so that your assistants don't have to go so far. It's one of their classic works. It's my number 70 to call. Number 69 is a more recent game that's kind of a very light sort of collection and economy game called Livingstone. You're going and you're in Africa, sort of reliving the famous expedition. You're setting up camps, trying to reach folks. You can try to camp closer to the river for quicker points and less money, or you can camp farther away that costs you more and will pay you possibly more points later on in the game. However, the money is important because you have to pay tribute to Queen Victoria. Whichever player that pays the least amount of tribute automatically loses the game. So you're trying to keep track of, well, I saw somebody put in some money at this point or not, and then trying to figure out if you're ahead, and then you want to keep a hold of that money because you want to spend it to get other points, and they're worth victory points by themselves. Or, again, you don't want to be that last player with the least amount of money in their treasure chest. It's a fun little game. You also have some mining with these little stones over here that can add some luck that let some people have a detracting view on it, but it's still a fun game, and it plays like in half an hour or so. This is Livingstone, my number 69. Number 68 is a game that's been around for quite a while, and most everybody has played this. It's Magic. These are some ancient put together decks, pre-constructed decks, and it's been a long time since I've played competitively, but I know you pull out one of these pre-constructed decks, it's going to work, and you're going to have an entertaining game out of it. And so that's why I have it on this list. Not for being collectible, but it's still, after all these years and after all of the tweaks that you can barely keep up with unless you're playing on a daily basis, it's still a fun and entertaining game. And that's Magic the Gathering, my number 68. Number 67 is a game that, when I think of it, it's one word. When I think of this game, is Spite. This is Caylus. It's one of the grandfather of worker placement games where you're placing workers along a road. There's a provost, however, that if you pay money, you can scoot the provost further back up the road, and anybody you've placed past that point in the road, you don't get their action. And so people are literally spending money to keep other people from doing the things that they want. And that's just the way part of this game works. Then there's also secondary, you're getting different combinations of resources to send to the castle and actually help build it up, which is really the point of the game, but you can ignore it or you want to marginally pay attention to it. There's several different strategies, lots of different ways to go about it. It's an award-winning game. And again, if anything, it's fun just to, if you want to mess around with folks, this is certainly the game to do it. This is Caylus. This is my number 67. Number 66 is a game that has its own interesting take on the same mechanic from Livingstone, which is Cleopatra, the Society of Architects. This is a game where you have both regular resources and these dark resources. So for the same card, you get more items. However, when you use it, you get these corruption tokens, and they get put into a little secret bin. And the idea is that whoever has the most corruption at the end of the game, even if they have the most money, they automatically lose. So you have to go around and try to find ways to get rid of that corruption or not take it to begin with. Then there's also a thing where you can help build the queen's gardens, and if you tile in a section of garden spaces, then that helps you get rid of your corruption. So it has this little triomino, pentomino placement here, and also it has just a lot of little things that really make this a very unique game. And that's Cleopatra and the Society of Architects, my number 66. Definitely check that one out. Flies under the radar quite a bit. Number 65 is a game that has, it's again another Kramer and Kiesling game. That's Torres. This came out in '99. Tikal came out in 2000. This has the same sort of action point allowance, but you are actually building up castles, and you can actually send your knights, the little pieces, through the castles up to the top of them. You want to build up these tall towers, tall castle structures, and get your guys up into the top of them. There's some special bonus points for being on the first, second, and third level at different points in the game. And then there's even these customizable, you can really get fancy and have specific action cards. You can get them, sort of pay for them and get a random bonus, or you can have a deck of them in the expert version that everybody gets, and then each player is going to work their way through their deck of cards. It's definitely a fun game. It's been reprinted once in a much nicer, fancier box. This is the original one that I had when I started with it. It still holds up today. It's Torres. It's my number 66. Number 65, excuse me. Number 64 is a tiny game that just came out from Kickstarter in the last year. It's Province. This is a 2-player game, and it's a worker placement game of sorts. There's lots of little bits in there, but there are 3 different spots in sort of a triangular fashion. 2 of them provide sort of action points, and 1 of them provides money. And so the idea is you have a small little board. You're trying to get 10 victory points by building up these buildings. However, if you're the second player to build the building, you don't get the victory points for the building. And so you're in a race of trying to build each of these buildings first. However, some buildings require the lower level building to be built before you can build the upper level of the building. You get more workers, and then the thing is that you have 3 workers that you share. And so part of the game is, okay, well, if I take this, because you can only move each worker 1 spot. So if you get to the second labor space, then you know you're going to be giving your opponent money on their turn, potentially. Or if you have it on that first, on the money spot, then you know they're going to have an opportunity for labor. So if they've been collecting money, you don't want to give them labor opportunities. And if they have been engineering it where they don't need a lot of labor, but they need money, you don't want to give them opportunities for money. So it's a very tactical sort of game. There's even an iOS app if you wanted to try this out and you weren't able to find a physical copy. This is Province, and it's my number 64. Number 63 is a game that Through Tasty Minstrel put out. This is Il Vecchio. Il Vecchio is a very interesting sort of, you have workers, you have family members that you spread out into the board, and then there's these middlemen that represent part of the Catholic Church's agents, and so you can go and do favors for them, and you get these tokens, and then you can turn those in for points by going up and sending people off to war or help building another part of the castle, and you get special powers. And then also, too, there's another special track here where they give you special powers during the game and special end-game bonuses. So it's sort of very much, it's quasi-engine building, it's quasi-tableau, it has a lot of different things going on, and part of it is, too, you're following these people because the way it works is if you use one of these middlemen, they're called, they go to their next station on the board. So you might be giving that middleman to somebody else where their person is. If you can get it where your family members are set up, then you can use it and sort of pass them around from one family member to the next. But of course, everybody's engineering their way to prevent that from happening. So it's a very interesting, it has lots of different themes that are sort of blended in together. Things you've seen before, but it all comes together in one box. That's Il Vecchio, my number 63. 62 is a game that flies under the radar as well. This is Firenze. It's a game where you're collecting bricks of certain colors. You're trying to make up towers, but they have to be of particular heights and colors because there's only certain demand for particular heights and colors that you know at the beginning of the game. So everybody knows sort of what's at stake. There are other little favors about, but then there's also these action cards, and so you take bricks that you don't want and you can plot bricks that you don't want on these other cards in order to take ones that you want. So it's at the end, and then too, when you take a card, you take all the bricks that are on top of it. So it's very interesting of, okay, well, I'm going to spend this brick to get this card. Oh, do I want somebody else to have this brick that I'm giving up? It makes for some very tough decisions because the cards in the deck are usually very powerful as well. Again, it's just sort of it plays real simply, and it's very simple to comprehend and intuit, but it's a hard game to master. It's Firenze. It's my number 62. The last one this evening is a game that really another game that put cooperative games on the map. This is Forbidden Island. This game it's a little tin, but it packs a big punch. My 6-year-old just loves this game to death, even though I do a lot of the movement for him. You're trying to go around. There's a tableau of tiles, locations. Your job is there's 4 different artifacts, treasures on the island. You have to go. There's a deck of cards you're collecting. You need 4 fragments of this artifact, this treasure, and then you go to one of these two. There's 2 places on the board for each one of the 4 different trophies or treasures, and you have to turn in a set to grab that piece. However, each player can only hold 5 cards, and so that's the problem. You have to try to work together to meet up and exchange cards in order to get one person with a set, because 4 of your 5 cards has to be what you're looking for. So that really causes a problem because you only hold those 5 cards. When do you drop stuff? When do you trade stuff away? And then 2, oh, by the way, the island that you're doing this on is sinking. And so as the game goes on, there's a clock so that you can either be trying to work on winning the game or trying to work on keeping the game going by shoring up and basically creating sandbags to help keep the island from flooding, because pieces of the island will fall off and sink into the ocean, and so the amount of available land you have becomes limited. And if you can't get to a spot that has one of your that you need to get one of the treasure pieces, you're done. And there's also, you have to helicopter off the island, so you have to make sure that the launch pad for the helicopter has to stay dry, otherwise you can't leave the island even if you get all the pieces. It's a fun half an hour, and you will every time it definitely brings up the tension level to get off this Forbidden Island. It's my number 61. It's a great one if you haven't played it. That's another 10 in the list. Hope you enjoyed this video and are enjoying this series of videos. If you want to find out more about what I'm doing in gaming, you can follow me on Twitter at InstGameReview. You can also check us out on Facebook. Search Instant Game Review, and we're there. You can like us on Facebook. Thank you for watching. God bless you. We'll see you again next time.